This is the Pass the Pitch podcast with Anna Frazzetto. Each episode, we sit down with bold thinkers and industry trailblazers to uncover the strategies, stories, and sparks of inspiration that drive growth and transformation. Let's get started.
So when we started Lucid, Daniel and I were sitting on our couch and we were, just brainstorming. And I said to him, what if we just started our own agency? And the next words out of my mouth were, how hard could it be? And I had no idea it was going to be the hardest thing that we have ever done. But it's the most rewarding thing. I think, being a leader is so hard. I give myself to my team every day. It's my responsibility as a leader, but my cup gets filled up by knowing that, we've cultivated a great team and that they feel supported. But work-life balance is tough when you're running a business with your spouse. I know during our speech, Daniel kind of alluded to our date nights are also business meetings. And so you just have to really be intentional about the time that you take for yourself. It can be difficult to find that work-life balance, but I think it's really important just to take intentional moments for yourself, even if it's as simple as going to work out for 30 minutes or, making a meal. All those things sound so simple, but, when you're trying to, grow a business and, you focus so much on that and other people, those things don't come so easy. So I've been really trying to focus on being intentional because I know that if I take care of myself, I'll better take care of everyone else. And that's how it was when I was a caregiver too. It's hard. You give so much of yourself all day that you forget to eat or even, go to the bathroom sometimes. And so I'm really trying to focus on that.
I think it's an experience that everybody should have. You learn so much about doing business in the U.S. or being part of a company in the U.S. and we lead in so many sectors. So we have there's a tendency for us to shape some things and define how business is done or how the cultures are shaped within corporations and so forth, and that's good. But and I'm curious to see if you agree with me on this or not. Once you step outside of the U.S., your eyes open in terms of how you engage with people in how you conduct business and the expectations on the other side, and even the way to engage and the demeanor. I have this picture in my mind as we're talking through this, and so I want to share it. I'll try to summarize it. This was Shop Perception, and I was opening the Asia market. And so I have to present to the board of Hakuhodo, which is a big marketing company conglomerate, really, in Japan. And so I had Japan in my background because I worked for Canon at some point. And the first 2 weeks of Canon are essentially onboarding you into the Japanese working culture. What you need to do, the holding of the car when you're getting introduced to people, and how many times you're supposed to bow in those interactions. And back that was my first formal technology job. Back there, I had no idea that this was going to be so useful later in life. So here I am. There's 10 board members for Hakuhodo Holding sitting across a long table in a beautiful, very high up conference room in Tokyo. And here I am taking every card and reading the title and embracing the opportunity to talk to that person and waiting and looking at them also for feedback. That sounds silly, but then it's also enriching. It helps you see things differently.
Volatile times. That's definitely the name of the game right now. And I think there is one thing that is standing out to me, whether it's driving growth personally in a company, organization, or anything, and that is how to ignore distractions, because volatility means that all kinds of things happen around you. Well, some of the volatility you can make good use of. So you want to understand it and you want to have a strategy about it. I think it's even more important to be able to kick out all the distracting things. That just because something goes up and down today, tomorrow, there are elections here and there are people talking about everything all the time and want to have an opinion. Just ignoring those and focus on what you can control is probably the single most important factor. It's probably a situation where individuals are more the ones that are to blame around getting distracted and not executing on the strategy, on the plan, but trying to chase down, for example, something that has created that volatility. So when you're talking about an organization as an abstract form that is there to support executing the strategy, that's one thing, but it's the individuals that so easily can chase the next shiny thing and shiny object. And an organization, even a startup, you can think of like an aircraft carrier that is put on a certain course. And then you have all these little ships that go out and understand what's going on and bring back that information about the new shiny thing, the new volatility, the new blocking point that might be somewhere around, and then bring it back so that you, as the captain of the large carrier, can then make the decision whether you want to steer into a different direction, but then steer on the one side the whole company in the different direction, or keep course and have these little boats go out and do experiments and test out what's happening in the market. Is that new direction actually really relevant to you? Doing market experiments. I think it's just the good lessons of strategy are valid whether it's calm waters or it's very volatile and you're in the middle of a storm. And always coming back to this, that's actually not that different. It is the same thing that it used to be last week, last year, last decade. Essentially, it's just a different environment now. And you want to assess that environment and then, but stick the course that you're setting. If you're setting a new course, perfect. That's great. Make a good decision about how you set that course, because you make a good assessment of the market, of your own capabilities, what is missing, and then you put in a new plan, and then you code that plan into your onboard computer, and you start to steer in the different directions while the boats keep on looking if it's still the right direction.
I worked at Bank of America for a little bit, and they use some language that I think is really good. They talk about sustainable growth, right? And they're in a good position, being in the largest bank or the second largest bank in this country. But they think about it as having an active balance of always thinking about growth and never letting up on that as an ambition. And I think we've been in an awkward time. I like the question because it's hard. I'm talking to so many people right now who are either trying to find work or they're trying to find clients, and they share similar challenges. You and I have talked about the fact that in an election year, things can be difficult. I think it's also add on to it that people aren't sure what their AI spend should be, meaning they don't know if they should be spending on their existing platforms or if they should be waiting for some magic bullet that's going to solve some bigger problem. But I think for anybody who's working in sales right now, we're seeing a lot of expense management. So appealing to things that create expense management, I think from a sales standpoint is good. But I'm a much bigger believer in talking about revenue strategies. I just think that we need to get back to really focusing on how we help companies grow their audiences and improve their revenue. I work with startups a lot. And while I'm a technical person and I present myself as a chief technology officer. When I talk to startups, I am mostly talking about revenue. I want everybody to be focused on the goal is revenue. We're going to build a great product. There needs to be an audience. And the way we demonstrate that is through revenue. And I try to remind people of that all the time.
Not hitting budgets right now is pretty prevalent, and we are in that bucket. But glad to say that we are over prior year finally. And we didn't want to be in a position where we weren't, performing better than the prior year and not using the economy as an excuse, and really looking internally with the team on what is it that we absolutely can control, right? So we can't control the number of job requisitions that clients are going to have, but what we can control is our continual communication and partnership, so that the moment that there is an opportunity, they're thinking about us because of the thoughtful and empathetic, relationship that we have with our clients, to give them the grace that we know they're also having a tough time, and we're right there with them. So we've done a lot of role playing and training. We've had to really go back to basics over the past 12 months. You've probably heard that a lot too. We tripled the organization during COVID. So we talk about really, tough times. We're having tough times from an economic perspective, but, COVID was a tough time in and of itself, and we grew. And so I think we thought, like, we had this, I think we had a little bit of too much optimism coming out of growing the organization so quickly. And then it just came to a clear halt compared to some of that growth. And we even had to look at ourselves and say, oof, okay, like we were running at crazy speeds, and we need to really slow down and get back to basics. Where are people's skill sets? We all kind of jumped in, rolled up our sleeves, did all of these amazing things to grow. And then when you're not growing, you really have to look at your team's capabilities, on what their true skills are, making sure you're leaning on their strengths and not picking at people and what they're not doing, but what are they capable of doing? And realign some roles, restructured a bit. Because again, like when everybody's jumping in and you're growing, sometimes you don't see some of the, red flags that cover themselves up because you're growing. And then when you're not, like those things start to creep up. So it's really being honest with yourself and your team on where we need to be honest with ourselves based on the skills of the team. And the team realizing it's not because they're not capable, but we all needed to go back to some basics and really rebuild some skills in this economy.
I think the irony is most of our companies haven't driven growth during this time, but I like to say we're setting ourselves up for that growth during that time. So really making sure, always we should be operating efficiently and in high performing ways and manners. For us, as you know, we really looked at if the market's turning and people are changing the way they invest in marketing, what else could we be doing? So during a downturn, you look at, or during difficult times, is it a new product? Is it a new service? Is it a new market? A new country, new state, whatever that may be, or a new way to, deliver a service. Obviously, with AI and other tools and technologies out there, there are efficient ways that, you can change the way in which you deliver and focus your attention and areas. So taking, I think, the time to really focus in on your business and what matters most to your client base, and then looking opportunistically at, okay, if we're not growing here, where could we grow? Without leaving the core of what it is that you do, but finding ways to do that. Is it investing in your team and developing, more training opportunities for people? Is it making sure you have a strong bench for when the market does change? We talk about this all the time, Anna, where a lot of salespeople have struggled when the market's down. in selling. So what training and development can you give your team? So to me, it's during those times, what can you do to invest in growth if it's even in the future of that growth? For us, as far as what we're seeing, definitely a change in the market. Our pipeline is stronger than ever going into 2025. People are really optimistic in making some of those investments. And I know you see this too, I'm sure, where it's investments not only in marketing, investing in their teams and development and bringing people on board, if it's rethinking the way they hire fractionally and getting amazing talent in to their company if they're not ready to bring it on full time. It's being agile and thinking of different and creative ways to kind of grow your business in a time when it isn't growing. But I have to say, going into 2025, I felt optimistic going into 2024, but I think it was a lot of hopium where we were hoping that this would happen. This time we actually have some of the data and statistics of our own that we're tracking to see that growth.
It isn't like your clients or your potential clients are going to understand that overnight. Snap your fingers and off you go. It's all about the messaging, how to reach, if it's a new market, to your point, or if it's a new persona or somebody different that you are going to target versus maybe it was the MSPs. So yeah, I think having a plan, working to make sure that your marketing plan is tied to your sales plan, I think that's an area with this industry that we don't do as well of a job as we should be. And I think the firms that are doing really well and are growing and are standing out right now while the market isn't doing as well are the ones that are ensuring that their sales and marketing plans are aligned.
Right. And that's another, I think, key element. I know myself personally, I've been in sales for more years than I care to admit. And the one thing that I always relied heavily on was the marketing side. Like I couldn't imagine sales without marketing. And I would hope that marketing felt that they couldn't imagine marketing without sales. They needed to be joined at the hip. But you're right. In this industry, for whatever reason, we don't do such a great job. I think it's up to people like us to just keep mentioning that and keep bringing attention to it.
Yeah. And I think that one of the things that I like best about, my new role at ASA is that they have a really strong marketing team and a strong sales team, but many times they're not tied together. And one of the most fun things that I've had the honor of working on for the last 90 days since I've been there, is really connecting those two together. So, if marketing's got a really great targeted plan that's working, closing the loop, making sure that, the unique clicks, the people that are really getting involved and taking advantage of what it is you're marketing, that then the sales team is following up on those leads and then having a joint meeting where you literally can share, congratulating the marketing team on the messaging, on the, timing of getting the project out, all of those things, and then tying it right back to sales so that, everybody's under a microscope right now. Anything you're spending money on, you have to have ROI, proof of ROI on. So I just think, it would be really great if everybody thought about that for their teams as well and said, okay, you've got this marketing team that is ultimately driving revenue. But if you don't, as a leader, tie that back and share the success that the sales team is having directly linked to the marketing, I think that's a really big miss. And I think from a culture perspective, that could really, really help to make sure you tie those together.
We had been a remote company before COVID. And so for us to adjust to COVID in some ways, being remote was not all that difficult. But something really interesting happened. We never used platforms to communicate with one another. We weren't on video with one another and until COVID, because we were doing that with our clients and our candidates. And so all of a sudden, we shifted and it became a way for us also to have eyes on one another, to check in, to make certain that we were okay, right? It also, from a leadership perspective, forced me to ask different questions, because if you don't sit each and every day with the team, you don't see how that person is from day to day necessarily. You don't have eyes on them the same way you do when you're in an office. So the addition for us of video made it helpful for us to see, oh gosh, this person doesn't quite look themselves today. And then you would ask offline or go to them. But I'll tell you, even as we've progressed and have returned to more normalcy of being around people, we are still remote. And I had a situation earlier this year where I felt someone on the team was just a little bit off. I couldn't tell you why, couldn't put my finger on it, but I invited her to coffee. Now, little did I know that was the worst thing I could have done, because I was doing it with the intention of checking on her and making certain she was okay. Her immediate response was, "Is something wrong?"
I tried to figure out, what is our culture? What are we? Who are we? And the best advice I was given was actually, again, from Jeff. I had a strategy meeting with him. It was sometime last year. And he was like, I never tried to figure out what my company's culture was. I let everyone else tell me. So I went down the path of letting the employees take the reins on some of the things that are what you would traditionally consider like a fun culture. So I am pretty obsessed with us being close and being a team. Yeah, I would say obsessed. And it's because we're virtual and we don't really see each other more than twice a year in person, like the whole team. I did, get the leadership team together a little bit more frequently than that. But for the most part, we are remote. So our culture is something that probably stresses a lot of people out. But it doesn't bother me as much because I think it's working. And it is, we have meetings. And I know people are like, oh, this meeting could have been an email, and then we do recalibrate and we look at that and go, okay, is this a waste of time? Is this a good use of time? But both of the recruiting team and the account management teams, they meet up every morning, 30 minutes, team chat, what's on the agenda today. But that does so much. First off, we're all remote. It makes sure that we all show up to the office, right? And we have our coffee, we're ready to go, we're chatting through the plan for the day. They all have a one-on-one with their direct leader every week. And we have team trainings, call clinics, so many of the things that you would do in an office, we have tried to re-engineer them so you still can do those virtually. You're not left alone at your desk in your office at home by yourself all day. We also use Teams, the chat function in Teams quite a bit, have lots of different channels. And then I would say the thing that the team came up with that has been like a huge hit is we have a monthly virtual happy hour. Although we say it is optional, I'm telling you, everyone breaks their necks to attend because we do trivia games. We vote on a core value of the month and which person displayed this value the most, and we make a big deal about all that. And now we're getting ready for our annual holiday virtual party, and we do things like we submit photos of the best Christmas tree, so we don't know whose tree it is, and we pick a winner, and we wear ugly sweaters, and we have a secret Santa gift exchange, so we're shipping gifts off to each other's houses, and you don't know when you open your gifts in front of everybody on the team. Like, those things are just like simple little things. And you know what? I didn't come up with them. My employees did. I just left that culture piece, that fun piece, to them.
We are a very performance-driven environment, and everybody's got great benefits, good, solid, compensation package. But like so many of us in the staffing industry, they have a base salary. Everybody has a base salary, but everybody has a significant commission opportunity. So what you put in is what you get out. And we are generally people that are in a sales job that are driven to perform, and their compensation is tied to that performance. I mean, it just creates this this real win-win and big opportunity. I mean, you can have a huge impact, however you define that. And you can also have at work and also have a huge impact at home. I'll give you an example. One of the women that's worked for me for, I don't know, let's just say 15 years. And she's had an amazing, I mean, she would just say it to you that she's had an amazing experience. And her daughter, who is now getting ready to graduate high school, thank God, she came to work for me when her daughter was 6 or something like that. And she said, Mom, thank you for never putting me in before or after care at school. You were always there to pick me up at the bus. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. And and she was sharing that. It just so happened on Mother's Day. And the fact is, she's this person, and everybody at Me Derby has the opportunity to have a big career and have this kind of work-life balance. And what are we here for, right? I mean, if you ask most people, they're putting their family before they're putting their work. Yet, we don't support families in this country the way we could and should. But I feel like we do that at Me Derby. And even if you don't have a family, everybody has a family, but even if you don't have children, for example, you want to have a life. And whether that's playing golf or taking classes or volunteering or doing whatever, again, it goes back, I think, to supporting people in their whole lives.
Thanks for listening to the Pass the Pitch podcast with Anna Frazzetto. Don't forget to subscribe and share. Season 2 starts next week with new guests and fresh insights on leadership and growth. See you then.